Welcome to today's interview. Today we're gonna meet Matt. Matt is someone that has done a lot in his life. He started out in Canada, and then he went and worked with diving, these hard hat tops, which is this globe that you have on top of your head. And then he went up the mountains to work, and then he went and worked with oil rigs, and then he went and worked in the crypto space. Well, before that, he went into the fitness area. He has done a lot of things. It's a very exciting guy to pick his brain. We go in and we talk a little bit about his past, the present. He's actually someone that has put a lot of time into regulations and crypto space. He's not a lawyer, but he has put a lot of hours here, and he shares his knowledge. He shares what he's learned, his idea, how he sees that we are going, what he thinks is important. And then the majority of the podcast in the end will actually be about fitness, because my past is that I'm a personal trainer. I worked over 10 years in the fitness industry, and Matt has done the same thing. So I think that if you're interested in personal growth and health and fitness, moving from that one, I think you will find a lot of value from this conversation and all this crypto and blockchain talk. So let's move forward. Let's dig into this episode and have a great day. So, welcome here, Matt. Very nice to have you here. We have known each other for a while now through the Telegram community, the internet, and I'm stoked to have you here to share your story. So, tell us, who's Matt?
Who's Matt? Hey, Andrews. First of all, it's super cool to be here, man. I love what you're doing. Like, obviously, we've been friends for a long time, and your YouTube content has been like amazing. So it's really cool to. I'm honored to be able to sit down with you today and just like talk to you and just kind of like shoot the shit. And it's cool to be here, man. I guess like who is Matt? That's kind of like the existential question, right? Like, who is Matt? How do we define ourselves? I guess it really depends like on what context. But if we're talking like in terms of like the blockchain space, Matt was just a guy who like when the EOS.io ICO came along, I heard everybody calling it a scam, and I got really interested because usually when people are jumping on something, like there's a reason. So it created some curiosity, and it brought me into it. I'd started out probably like a year earlier as like a speculator, to be honest with you. Like I was just kind of buying random things and not even a lot of it, just stuff here and there. And then I heard everybody talking about this EOS, and a lot of people were like up in arms and they were freaking out and they were calling it scam and all sorts of names. And that actually, believe it or not, drew me in. I started reading about it, and I really kind of got the concept that it was essentially like a version of Ethereum that really solved a lot of the smart contract problems on Ethereum. And I kind of got dragged into it. It's ironic because I think I have a lot of similarities to you, but I did it in reverse. Whereas you've been working with EOS Sweden for a long time, working behind the scenes and just creating a ton of content. You've always been like really active in the community. I started out I was kind of an entrepreneur at the time, and I was doing videos, and I was watching some of the people who were doing videos like Blue Jays, and I was like following all the launch parties, like diving into like the launches where you could on the Zoom for the initial launch of EOS. And I just kind of like thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Like I do these like these other videos anywhere. I'm used to being like used to speaking in public. Why don't I just do it? Like, what's the worst case scenario? I'm gonna like go. Like, I think this project is cool. I'm gonna stand outside. I'm gonna like film this video, and I'm gonna throw it on YouTube, and I'm just gonna like see what happens. And yeah, like my first videos were pretty laughable. If you ever check back, of course, I still do some YouTubing these days, but not as much. If you ever like look back, man, there's like this picture of me, and I'm like in this like wife beater, and, like hanging out on this chair on my balcony, just talking about all these like really new, cool, exciting things that I saw coming to the EOS ecosystem. And I guess doing that for a while, and Tribe had just launched, and essentially I started talking to Tom. And for anybody who doesn't know Tribe, it's essentially a content system that kind of runs using an EOS.io token as delivery, as like the economic kind of background. I hopped on there and kind of just did some videos, and Tom was like, "Hey, I like your videos," and I started interviewing him, interviewed a few other people, and started working for Tribe, and eventually moved into a co-founding role and a COO role. And I was really lucky. just didn't know what I was doing. But that's kind of how all interesting things start out. And we managed to take Tribe from literally like 50 users when I joined to 20,000 users within 6 months, and raise some money to be able to build out the product, and then had an opportunity to go and work with another Yasayo chain after that, and have just been kind of bouncing around on different projects and working in the space ever since then. And I fell in love, man, and here I am.
Yeah, and I
Pretty
actually
cool.
saw some of your early videos because you were one of the first one to start to make video content for the EO space. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
and I remember a lot of them were actually you were pretty fast to get pretty good as well at doing that. So uh,
yeah. I I think everybody has that kind of like, and this is something I talk about a lot. But we all have this like imposter syndrome. I wouldn't even say that it was so much that it was good. It was just like there wasn't a lot of people doing it, so you could get access to people really easily back then. And because there weren't a lot of people doing it, I wouldn't say that I was necessarily good, but just I managed to land some interviews with some of the kind of some of the people in the space who were doing really big things, and it just kept compounding, and I just kept meeting people. I've talked about it before. I always said like if you're just coming into the space, one of the best ways to get to know people is just doing content and interviewing people, and you'd be surprised what that leads to. Even if you think that you don't have something to give, if you start doing interviews, it's really surprising some of the opportunities that will come up if you're prepared to like work for them. So
yeah,
that's really the
and from that other EOSIO project you were working on is actually the way we started to talk to each other. So
good.
that's
Yeah,
nice. And then we just grow, and now we talk almost daily, at least a few times per week. So that's very nice. Uh,
definitely, man.
and
And
I know that before you went into blockchain, you have done a lot of cool stuff. So I actually want to back a bit. And how was your childhood? Let's start there.
my childhood. This
Yeah.
is a deep
You only need to share what you
line
want to
of
share.
yeah. No, it was cool. I had an interesting childhood. I moved around quite a bit in my youth. My father was engineer for occupational health and safety, so I was born in Canada. Moved around a lot. Like, people ask me where I'm from. I just say I'm like Canada because literally I've spent like I love the wine. I should have grabbed a glass of wine. I spent so much time like moving around, kind of all over Canada, and lived in a bunch of different parts. I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in Newfoundland growing up, which was a really good experience. And yeah, that was fun and cool, and it kind of led me down various paths and had a lot of different jobs. But I enjoyed growing up there, and I enjoyed kind of growing up in Canada. And of course, like as you know, I'm now in Costa Rica. And probably a series of events that have happened between Canada and here that would probably bore you to death. But I think kind of like kind of like what we talked about. I think like if you were to hear my story and where I came from, it wouldn't sound like if I would have, for example, even 3 years ago, Anders, if I would have said like if somebody would have come up to me and they would have been like, Matt, you're going to be living in Costa Rica, you're going to be doing blockchain projects, and you're going to be working in the EOS.io ecosystem, which didn't even exist, of course. But I didn't even know really like. I mean, I barely even knew what blockchain was. So it's been an interesting journey since there. I've done a lot of sports. Always been an avid diver, which translated into some later interesting working jobs, which were short lived, thankfully. But I don't know where to start, Anders. Like, where do I
Yeah,
begin? Where do
man.
I?
Let's start with you. One of the cool jobs that you have had is something with diving. What did you do?
Yeah, I've always had like these really crazy risk adverse jobs, like some time in university and everything as well. But I ended up doing a significant amount of kind of construction jobs. I've always been an avid diver, and one of the things that led me to commercial diving, which was relatively short lived, was exactly that. So I spent a bunch of time at the Canadian Working Divers Institute, and for the series of about 2 years, I was like a commercial diver. I did underwater construction, kind of like hard hat, surface supplied, and it's kind of like it was a funny experience, man. I also did a lot of occupational health and safety, but we can kind of talk about that after. But I had this opportunity, and I thought, like, this is really cool. This hard hat diving stuff. Like, I'm a diver. I've been diving since I was 15. Like, this would be something that I'm really gonna love. And like I had all these like grandiose visions in the back of my head. It was like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be like looking for treasure and like doing all this cool stuff and like using explosives and whatever else. And I went through this training, which was actually pretty expensive, in a place called Buckhorn, Ontario, and it was cool. But I think like a lot of my grandiose visions of what it was going to be were pretty quickly shattered when I got out and I actually started working in the industry. And I found myself like in water sewage treatment plants, like in this biosuit, diving in like pure shit, scraping needles off of trash racks, just like the worst jobs ever. I became like so disenchanted with it. There was a few opportunities, not opportunities, but there were a few really close calls where I nearly lost my life. They dropped an outfall on me in one of the lakes and pinned me upside down. Like it just came loose from the rigging. And I was cutting a porpoise out of some nets in BC when we thought it was dead, and it woke up and smacked me and basically like kind of almost knocked me unconscious underwater for a few minutes. I was on scuba at the time. Like not a few minutes, but more so a few seconds. It was pretty sketchy, and I quickly became disenchanted with this whole idea of like being this pirate and to kind of going out to do all these cool things. When I realized like it's really just like a lot of grunt work underwater. It sucks. So after that,
Yeah.
I went back to
And
go ahead.
what is a hard hat for those that don't know?
Yeah, for those who don't know, it's like I mean, I think like typically in movies you see kind of those big, huge hard hat things that are hooked up to the hose that goes up to the top side, runs off of a bunch of air compressors, run on mineral oil. But the newer ones are a lot more sophisticated and advanced. And it's basically something that keeps positive pressure inside of a mask. You can communicate, you can talk, and you can see. You have a little visor. You have a light that never works because you're always diving in cracks. It shoots out of your helmet. It refracts off all the different particles. You really can't see anything. You're cold. You're wet. You spend a lot of time in a chamber. And it sounds really cool, but it's really not as cool as it actually sounds. So I later went back to oil field. Was a journeyman carpenter and also journeyman scaffolder, which was kind of like building Lego in the sky with all your buddies for the day. Like you climb up 300. We used to call it like building tree houses. You know what I mean? You just like climb up and you're like building all these like crazy things, and you're like hanging. It's kind of fun. And then I finally got smart. I did a little bit of high angle rescue too, because I always really liked climbing and being at heights and doing kind of some of the more like some of the riskier jobs. Like I
So
just
you
always,
started
yeah,
below surface and then you went up into the
yeah,
heights.
exactly. Yeah. I've always kind of enjoyed physicality. I've kind of been an athlete a lot of my life and been into fitness most of my life and martial arts. So yeah, I really kind of took to that job, but I smartened up and I got educated in occupational health and safety and started working for oil companies, doing kind of consulting on emergency response management, writing procedures, doing a lot of public speaking, educating, and that was actually pretty rewarding. And that was kind of the last thing I did before I came out here.
Yeah, and what did you start with when you came there to Costa Rica?
Yeah, we were talking about that. It was funny. There was and I'm not going to get into it too long, but there was just this. Everybody kind of has that like aha moment, I think, and there was an aha moment. You in occupational health and safety in an oil field, you work in these work camps. Send you out to the middle of nowhere, and you're gone for like 2 weeks. Like they're nice camps. They feed you, they take care of you. Your bed is made. You've got a nice like big screen TV, gyms, all the stuff. But I had a really close friend of mine who was actually a few years younger than me pass away from a heart attack in a few doors down. And it like at the time it was really it was really sad or whatever. It's come to be one of the most impactful moments of my entire life, and probably like in a good way. Literally, I went home, talked to my girlfriend. I was like, "We're getting out of here." Where do you want to go? And I was like, "Costa Rica." 1 month later, packed all of our stuff, and we were out here, and we are kind of just sitting out here, and we're like, "Well, what are we going to do now?" We'd come out here, and I'd always been an entrepreneur, and I'd always kind of had like clothing companies and been into fitness and done like online fitness consulting. So it was the next kind of inevitable step. I just started taking on clients and started doing a lot of training. We were doing really, really well with it, and making good money, but I just didn't find it like fulfilling. And I really started to go down the rabbit hole into blockchain, interested in a lot of things that were going on. When I had the first opportunity after doing some videos to jump the tribe, like that started it. And then, for the last few years, I've been here ever since. It's,
Yeah, we have
going crazy.
pretty similar stories, you and me, where I started working in the kitchen as a chef a few different places, and then went to working in a cruise. I worked in some warehouses, and I went to China for a year, and that's the same thing. I came home when I was living at my mom still, and I said, I'm going to China, and she said, oh, with who? I'm going alone. For how long? A year. So that's how I moved out from my mother's home. I just went to China, and then when I came back, I started to working on the cruise again, and then I went and studied sports psychology. And during all these years, I was a trainer at the side. I was training people, and then I went into personal training for full time, and now I'm in crypto and tech, and I work with system administration and building websites and everything. And that's something that you recently started with as well. Well, somewhat.
Yeah,
The
definitely. I always kind of say like my lifelong learning began when I really started doing cryptocurrency because a lot of the people that surround you, you might come in as a speculator, but it grows into a lot more, and you start asking questions about like politics and life and monetary policy and why do people believe in the U.S. dollar? What backs it? What is the value and everything else? And so that actually led me down this like path of like self-discovery as an entrepreneur, which really I just wanted to learn as many skills as possible, and spent kind of the last few years doing exactly that. Getting really familiar with everything from like marketing to operations, and yeah, kind of like I do like I think a lot of different things, but I've kind of become this like accidental front end WordPress web developer recently, amongst other things I have going on for some of the wax sites that are coming out. And I think like that's like one of the best, especially in these times, man, because the world's like in the middle of changing. Like our economy is changing. I think it's going to be changed, and like I can't stress that enough. I recommend like if you're out there and you're kind of trying to get into things. I think like remote work is going to really become part of the next generation of how people work. So if you have an opportunity to dive into these things, I really recommend getting to know the Adobe Suite. Learn about Photoshop, learn InDesign, learn After Effects, learn about animation, learn about video editing, learn about web design, because I think that that's really going to determine um, the future. A lot of these different things, and this whole COVID experience has been born in this huge like entrepreneurial spirit. People are like they're going in and they're learning about these things, and I think that it's a really good idea. And yeah, just kind of being a little bit more succinct. Have been doing a bunch of WordPress development. I've always kind of been an amateur web dev for the last little while, and obviously you're really involved in the Wax ecosystem. Wax is in the middle of exploding, so I have the opportunity to work with a few different projects, just kind of doing their WordPress front end, which is actually really really cool. I love the NFT things. I really do. I think that I love what Wax is doing. Obviously, I do a little bit of business development for some other people and consult on a few different projects. But NFTs are really cool, man. They're the future for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, and I don't think we even started to understand what the NFT ecosystem will be. Uh,
Either,
I mean,
either, man.
there's so many use cases for it, and it can be applied to things that we can't imagine today. Uh, People
Yeah,
just focus on
what
what they know and what they hear, but I don't know. It will be huge.
exactly. And what we focus, like what we have and what we're hearing about and what's going on in the ecosystem right now is exciting, man. It's incredible. Like think about what we're doing right now alone with NFTs. Think about like, you know what I mean? Like some of the things that are going on are absolute madness. Really cool to be involved. I think like, I mean, I'm involved with a couple of different things. I know you are too. I like the trading cards. For me, like I was kind of a geek growing up. So when Wax starts putting out the Star Wars trading game, and possibly Magic the Gathering, because I am like a little bit of a closet dork from when I was a kid, then assigning utility to these UFTs. That's what I really think the future is. That's what I'm really stoked about. That's like I'm already paying attention. I'm all over it. I think like I'm very much involved with the Wax ecosystem as much as I am kind of other chains, but things like provenance, man, like verifiable objects. Like this isn't super sexy, but for example, pharmaceuticals or just verifying provenance of whatever. It could be a handbag that was made by a specific designer. It could be like a piece of real world art. I think like we're just starting to peel off the lid on NFTs, and look around. I see things absolutely exploding. Like it's really really exciting. happening right now. Love it.
Yeah, because basically one thing that we could see, I don't know, when you say art, we could have a museum that showcase art that other people own and they trade through the NFTs. And if you want it, you can come and claim that art, or you can just leave it in their secure area, and you say that, yeah, I own this piece of art in this museum. Anyone can see it, but it's mine, and I can sell it, or I can sell parts of it to anyone, and that is very simple to do with the NFTs. It's just one token and then it's done from a verified source, of course.
Yeah, like fractionalized securities, fractionalized NFT based securities. It's true too. I think that that's like really cool. I think that there's a lot of really cool use cases for NFT, and industry is it's pretty unique right now. I'm actually gonna give a little shout out just because I love the guy. I'm lucky to have some pretty cool friends and mentors in the space, but it's doing Nifty Wizards, which is like it's like this like role playing game where the community kind of decides how it goes, and then it's like used in Telegram. Like I think that some of the underlying utility of NFTs, like that's what's really going to drive this. And I know that that's going to be coming with some of these card games. You know, when people can start really interacting. You know, the trading part and the collecting part is really cool. I'm excited about that. But I think that you start assigning like real value utility to some of these NFTs and putting like actual economic utility behind them, I think that's when it's going to get really, really interesting. So,
Yeah, and until we really have that, we have to be if I will start over. If a user come to any blockchain project right now, the first step is education. The first step is not to start to use it. And that has to change. We have to start with the use case, and then when they are interested and when they have started to learn, like we have done with the crypto space, we started to learn for this crypto. It was interesting, exciting, and then we go and learn about politics. We learn about currency. We learn about history, and we start to learn about other stuff, and we educate ourselves, and then we understand what we are doing more. And currently, we're still lacking this first step. The cloud wallet is a huge. It's a huge part of this, because that's a great first wallet for a lot of users. You don't need to understand everything. They can take away some of the issues. But I think we need to take this even further, and all the interfaces on all the websites, they are built by tech people. We need to have people that work with non-tech people design and test these things out.
yeah, I think so too. You make a really good point, and I love the Wax Cloud wallet. Just some of the other wallets in terms of, and I'm not knocking it. Like it came from EOS. I love EOS. I always love mainnet. Done a bunch of work with obviously Warbly, and I still do some business development for one of the gentlemen who works at UX Chain. But so I like kind of the compliance aspect as well. But I also love like EOS. I love mainnet, but it's got to be easy, man. Like as it currently stands right now, there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of blockchain friction. If you're trying to get your friends, like I tried to walk a close friend of mine through a sign up for an EOS account the other day. And it was, trying to get them EOS for resources and then trying to stake them for Rex and XY. It's pretty complicated. That's one thing that I think that Wax has really nailed is their user experience, right? And I think that that's something that was really cool with issuance of all these cards, that if you were really new to blockchain, you click on a button, you link it to your Facebook account. I'm buying things, I'm transacting. So I think that that's like really, I think it's still early. I don't, in terms of the whole industry, I don't think like you'll say, when's mass adoption? Like, I think we're getting really, really close. And I think that that's like the next part. We've proven that EOS.io is a superior system. We've proven that it works. It's fast enough, dependable. And then now we're in the stage of proving that we can make kind of very accessible to the everyday average user. And I think that that's like the last little bridge to, obviously the fiat, which is starting to happen a lot as well, starting to get a lot more kind of integration with banking systems, and that's becoming a lot easier. But the final bridge is just really like nailing that user experience. That's one thing that I think Wax and the cloud wallet, a lot of the applications that they're building is like really, really done well on, and something that I really approve of. It's just super easy to use. Walk in, one click, good to go.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of what we really need to get to is a a place where a user comes and they don't even need to understand that there's a blockchain technology in the background. It's not like you go to a website and the first thing you get to learn about is that they use MySQL to store their data. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, no one cares. They just want to have a software. They want a service that works. And if you sell a service and these are digital, they are proven, they are the correct one, authenticated, they can't be faked. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know about the blockchain and the RAM and the CPU and everything. And we're moving to the right direction, but we are not ready for a mass adoption because currently we have a lot of work just to support newcomers, and they are interested to learn.
I think you're right. Yeah, nobody brags about like built on MongoDB or like or whatever else, right? Like nobody, like we're purists. Like we grew up. This is our passion. We're passionate about this. So you see us like a lot of us are talking about like, but it's just kind of like like in the early days, the internet entrepreneurs, people arguing about internet protocols and which one is better. Like nobody, like truthfully, and nobody's going to care. And I think that the EOS.io technology stands a pretty good chance at taking a lead on that. We just exactly like you said, we need to make it a little bit more accessible, completely hide it. I think that's something that Dan Larimer said and recognized very early on as well, is that the most successful applications are going to be those that are used that people have no idea that there's even blockchain involved. Like that's the direction we have to go in. Getting closer, I think.
Yeah, we are taking a step towards that direction every day. So I mean, yes, on Wax as an example, the tops came and they launched the Garbage Pail Kids, the first series, and just a few weeks after that, we have multiple new marketplaces launched by community members that are improving on existing platforms. And each week we go now, we get more tools, we get improvements, everything becomes better and easier to access, but we are still far away from being easy. I mean, I had a friend that found Garbage Pail Kids interesting, and he wanted to get in and he wanted to trade because he came from the World of Warcraft background where he actually made a lot of money farming and selling and trading items. So this is what he used to do for fun when he was bored. So he's like, yeah, I know how this works. I want to get in. And I had to start to explain and send him to multiple websites to get Wax. He had to get some kind of Bitcoin wallet to get Bitcoin, and then he needs to wait for the transaction. It takes an hour, and then the next step and next step and next step. Instead of just go here and then you have the cards. It should be that easy, but it's not.
It is, but the cool thing is exactly like you said, it's starting to explode. Like I'm building two websites, two front-end websites for clients right now with two more in the pipeline. Like everybody wants to do their own thing. One of them is like super cool, man. It's a charitable way of using NFTs to raise money, which I'm really in love with. And I think like with the explosion of all this tech, we're going to see people who are entrepreneurs who are going to be able to capitalize on kind of closing some of these little like blockchain friction gaps. I think that that's going to be a little bit more prevalent here in the future. And just because people are getting so excited about this stuff, and there are so many people who are starting their own projects and they're building tools and they're getting involved. I think that a lot of people can, especially those who have been in the community for a while, can really see this thing expanding and exploding, and it's cool. Like it's not it's not like I wouldn't compare it to kind of like the ICO craze. I would just compare it to seeing blockchain used in such a way that it's supposed to have utility, and people can assign the value themselves to a lot of these items and trade them and potentially make money off of them. There's like industries being built, and like people are feeding themselves in certain countries who wouldn't normally have an opportunity by kind of building blockchain projects and kind of maybe building marketplaces and buying and selling some of these things just based on perceived value alone. It's awesome. I love it. It's really exciting, man.
Yeah, it is. And what I said earlier in one of these calls with another person is that where I see NFTs going in one direction that is very strong is for the content creators, the streamers, those that use Twitch or podcast, that ask for money to run their business, and then they can give something back and they get the money, and the user that they get this NFT, they can trade it and they can earn, or they can collect it and they can trade it later, or just collect they get something instead of some emojis in a chat or an extra video now and then, and they can get that still, but they can also get something of value that can be traded later. And what you said about the charity, I don't know how much you can actually go into the overall view of how it works.
Man, I would love to, buddy. Like, yeah, I would love to. I got to be really careful because
Yeah.
a friend of mine, and then if I start talking about it, and it's not really like my place to reveal what's going on. But I think the long and short is that there's a ton of reasons to start to use some of these things and to build some of these things out, and I love what's going on in the space in general, man. Like, it's a really cool place to be, and I'm lucky to lucky enough to find some like really good mentors. It was funny because the other day with Evan, you were having a conversation, and what he said really struck a chord with me. You know, like I like being the dumbest person in the room, and it's neat with what's going on, and I think I could kind of relate to that. You really want to find people in the space who are smart and know a lot, and surround yourself with them, and it'll probably bring you a lot of opportunity, and mostly the opportunity to learn.
Yeah, and that's how I've been doing, I guess, all my life. And whenever I stop being the dumbest person, I get bored and I want to do something new.
Yeah, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need a new room, man.
Yeah.
Bottom line, go find a new room because if not growing, then you're shrinking, or you know, like it's cool. I've spent a lot of time doing a lot of different things in this space, and I'm really not like patting myself on the shoulder here, but just surprised the amount of skills that you can really learn in a year, and the amount of diversity you can bring to your life by meeting people who are smarter than you, and just like listening, working with them, and seizing opportunities that are put in front of you because the space is just rife with them. And NFTs are one of the leading kind of drivers of that at the current moment, the NFT market.
Yeah, and I want to take this moment and say that, but that instead of just sitting on Telegram, whoever listened on this all day, start to build something, learn something, and that's the best way to learn, and you make it more fun. Whatever it is, a website, a blog, content, start, I don't know, work with a team, volunteer, you spend time in the ecosystem, go and help someone build this project better, even if you don't get paid for it. You learn something, and it will be great.
It is. Yeah, the key to learning how to fly is to throw yourself at the ground and miss, right? Douglas Adams from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it's like, it's so true, man. If you can throw yourself at the ground enough, you know, you're gonna come up eating dirt. But I think that people kind of like recognize something that you're doing, or you'll find a way. A lot of like budding entrepreneurs who are kind of like just starting out, and they're like making a little website, and they're like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I think it's also important that we really like be encouraging to other people who are in the space. We want to make this place a really like acceptable space for people to come and learn and grow, because people have a lot more potential than they give themselves credit for, and those unsuspecting people can become like really good entrepreneurs if we just take the time to welcome them in, encourage them, help give them information, and it's blockchain is like just it's just a really cool place to be right now. I see a lot of people trying things out, but you're right. You talk about it all you want. You got to do it. You got to do it, and if you fail, you fail. But you got to do it.
Yeah, but that's everything. I mean, both of us has been coaching people with exercise, and doing is the only thing that matters. You can have the best exercise program, you can have the best diet, you can have everything, but if you don't follow it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, follow up. You got to follow up, man. This
Yeah.
is like an industry that rewards those who are following up. Like when you think about it, you know, I didn't have any blockchain experience. You know, like 3 years ago, I didn't know what I was doing, and got to put in the work and kind of meet the right people, and you'd be surprised what you can learn in a few years if you just take the time to get off your and do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if we go back there, what was the first crypto that caught your interest? You don't want to say Dogecoin.
Oh no, it was Ripple. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, that's when. Yeah, and it's funny because that kind of like that theme has followed me into. I've done a lot of compliance stuff, and work kind of, you know, with like capital raises and stuff like that with Verlin through Mindset, one of a guy who I'm really lucky to have been linked up with. But I've always found like the institutional and financial integration use case for blockchain like exceptionally interesting. So when I first saw Ripple, and it was like, oh, they're going to use the banks of You know, I got really excited about that, and that's when I started to realize that blockchain was going to become a thing. And my views on certain things might have shifted over time. I just, I think that blockchain has a lot of use cases, and I think really that it's going to be the framework for the next internet. I think it's quickly becoming the framework and the new standard for the next internet. So above and beyond just kind of the speculative cases, it has the ability to remove a lot of red tape and inefficiencies, both within the financial system and outside. So cool, man. There's a lot of really interesting things
Yeah,
happening in
and the
this.
last few years, you have now you're not a lawyer, but you have spent a lot of time reading all these guidelines on from the FinCEN and what people actually
Oh,
should be doing to follow in the crypto space to don't so they don't get all these problems from FinCEN and from SEC and everything like that. What is the if you come from that perspective from the time you put in here and we put this disclaimer that you're not a lawyer, you just put in some time and you have done a lot of work here. uh, what is your takeaway from this?
my takeaway from this, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, man, because I really love like hard like I love freedom. I love I love the whole like of the ethos of Bitcoin, this like free and independent financial system, and like forget the government, like let's build our own way, and and truly like user-owned financial money. Like I love that and that, and I'm all about that. And yourself, like I spend a lot of time on unregulated things as much as I spend time on regulated things. I do see a need for, unfortunately or fortunately, the government has kind of changed the way that they are, that they have kind of perceived financial assets. And in one way, that's really validating. Like, that's great. Like, hey, all of a sudden, they have said that these assets that you have created are worth something. They're treating them like money. But on the negative hand, we've seen, FinCEN and the FATF kind of introduce some guidelines and introduce some pretty strict policies and procedures. And my whole thought on it is kind of like this. Like I think that if we're just being completely intellectually honest here, and I'm just being honest. I don't think that that the government is going to come down like the hand of God and start crushing every single project that's out there, or anything like that. But I just think that if you're looking to build something that is in a space where it might be highly regulated, or if you're looking to build something that's going to go out to millions of users, I think it's worthwhile taking a look at regulation, but also being completely intellectually honest. Like when PayPal came out, they didn't have any, they didn't have a money transfer license. They didn't, weren't working as a money service business. They came out and they put some posters up on the wall and they started doing things. So I think that regulation is really important for certain applications right now. I don't think that the government or the SEC has enough to go around squashing out small projects that they won't be able to recover. And I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that they probably don't want to do that, because like Hester Peirce has sat up and spoken a lot about the fact that the SEC is absolutely crushing and stifling innovation in the U.S. with some of these things. But I do think that like for regulated finance and for a lot of other use cases out there, that regulation makes a lot of sense. I think that there's a space for regulated spaces, and I think that there's a space for regulated apps, particularly when you're in highly sensitive jurisdictional zones in terms of legislation or rules that are surrounding them. I think that whether we like it or not, and I don't like it any more than anybody else, KYC is coming, and of course, knowing that I spent a considerable amount of time with Warbly. Um, I kind of like this. I'm kind of like, half of me is like this rebel, and it's like screw the government, and then I've got the other half of me that says like I recognize that blockchain has legitimate use cases for finance, and that it's going to make sense in a lot of cases, and that if you're building something you really want to create that's bulletproof, that you want to send out to the masses, and you don't want to deal with headaches later, and potentially looking at some of those things is something that's worthwhile doing to preserve not only the interest of yourself, but the interest of people who are going to be potentially interacting with your application. But then there's also kind of, as I said, not to drone on too much, there's the reverse side of that, where I see a lot of companies that are looking like, we'll scale and we'll deal with it later. That's actually a pretty viable defense in terms of scaling your business. Like I think a lot of people will do that too, but you just got to make sure that you have the coffers to, if you do get large enough to the point that you're ruffling some feathers, that you can deal with those, and maybe that's not always the safest way to go about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of projects that, well, a lot. I knew a few. One of them is Siacoin, which is pretty much they want to build Dropbox but on blockchain, and they are cleared from the SEC now. They paid a fee and they are good. EOS, I guess Block One is clear from that.
Block one, yeah, block.
They paid.
From EOS.
They paid this funny fee compared to what they raised. It was a joke, but they paid a fee and then that's done as well. But there's a lot of projects that isn't, and we have no idea. I mean, I don't know this space. I didn't care about finance regulations up until I started to go into this space. So
Yeah, I think like to put a little bit of disclaimer there, like regulation isn't sexy, and I work on projects that are not regulated that are going the opposite road as well, and I'm fine to do that. I do a lot of work consulting on some of the stuff that's going to UX chain. It's something that I'm watching. I'm actually building my own project, very financially oriented for that chain as well, which I won't be talking about for probably quite a few months. But like, I love regulated finance and I love that kind of stuff too. But I don't want to be like the voice of regulation. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be this like because I love what a lot of other people are doing, and I don't think that the SEC or the government has resources to go out and chase every single project. You got to get on their radar and you got to create a stir. And I would hope that by the time you've done that, that you've kind of got some money in the bank where you have, a defensibility strategy in terms of how that goes around. The reason why I am so interested in the SEC and securities is because I do a lot of work with mindset. Berlin was somebody who was introduced through a mutual friend of mine, Darren, and in order to be able to raise capital for projects, which is something that I've gotten really passionate about and I've been working on quite a bit, got to know the SEC regulations. And to me, that's really exciting. Raising capital, I think that that's like one of the major problems that we have in the industry. We have a bunch of entrepreneurs who are out there. They're hyper intelligent. They might be hyper technical, or they might understand, certain aspects of how to build something out, but maybe they just I think 5 to 10% of people that ever go to do a capital raise to raise money for their project ever succeed, and maybe about 10% of those people actually make it to market. That's the one thing that we're really lacking in this space is just proper kind of knowledge of what that process looks like and how to take people on that journey. And to me, it's really fascinating because it allows people who are incredibly technical or just have like brilliant life-changing ideas to be able to raise capital and to be able to do the things that they love. I think that the next wave of innovation is really going to come from the blockchain space. I believe that, like in my heart of hearts, I believe that the key is really getting an education mechanism for some of these people to understand simple things like, what is a go-to-market strategy? What is a product market fit? What is like corporate governance and due diligence? And I think that that's where a lot of my love of kind of some of the regulated things comes from as well, as well as some of the finance stuff, but just giving really good entrepreneurs the ability to be able to raise capital and understand what's required. Because I think that some people probably shouldn't raise capital. If you look at it, you really take a few steps back and you take a look at, how much work is required to put some of these things together, that there are probably certain people who would be better off. We see people who are like spending their life savings and like emptying, their bank accounts and emptying it to build these things. And when maybe a lot of them, if they really understood how complex the process is, probably take a little bit of a step back. I know this sounds crazy. I was talking to Kurt, is a friend of mine, Kurt Breguet, and we were talking about this last night, and it's both something that we hold close to ourselves and something that I know a lot of other people share too. You can build a project with your own money, but a true litmus test is when you build your project with other people's money. And the smartest people that I know do exactly that. Right? They, because if you can convince somebody to, whether it's just the seed capital of like 100K, or maybe it's 50K, maybe it's 20K. If you can convince somebody else that your idea is good, that's kind of like a final little check in the box. You've created the sounding board. And if you can raise $2 million, there's a really good chance that your project is really good. If you can raise $500,000, there's a good chance that your project is really good. So yes, when I see kind of budding entrepreneurs who might be highly technical, that's one thing that I urge them to go out and to get educated on what's required, and do some market research. Get some sounding boards, do focus groups, like really, a good sense of whether your project is viable. Don't invest your own money. Nobody does that. The smartest, wealthiest people I know don't do that, even though they have it. Go out and really test it out and do some market research. Make sure your product is viable. Make sure you have the right documentation, and make sure you know the amount of work that's really going to be involved in taking your product to market.
Yeah, and one way to get some money, I know that currently the Wax Labs ecosystem, the one where you can get money, they haven't given out millions, of course, but they are giving start capital so someone can test their idea and push it to market if it brings value to the Wax ecosystem. And there are multiple places in the blockchain space where you can actually get some funding to test your idea and build up something and see if this has some value, if you can do it and you don't lose any equity in the project during this time. And that is something that is very amazing with this ecosystem, is that the small people have a chance to get some funding to get going. You can be a small team and you can work on it. So
I think that's one of the things that a lot of people miss. They're like, oh, I've got to go out there and I'm going to raise 20 million off the bat. But it doesn't work like that. You really got to prove that your product is viable. You've got to prove it to multiple people, and you do it in small series of steps. Wax, I'm actually going to be applying for something for a project of mine for Wax Labs. So we'll see if I can eat my own dog food and deliver it in such a way that's digestible to the community and interesting. But that's the truth. You really prove that your product is viable. You get a little bit of traction. You should always be thinking in stages of delivery. You're not going to run to a $20 million Series A raise, and there's little grants and stuff. And the Wax Labs thing is really cool. There's grants, and then you go into kind of your pre-seed, your seed. You slowly build it up. You build it up slowly, right? If you're looking for, you've got to prove that your idea makes sense. You can do that. That's one of the things that you mentioned. There are a lot of grants going on. Wax Labs is one of them that I find really interesting, where you can kind of do that. So you don't have to be an expert entrepreneur right off the bat. You just have to have a good idea, and you have to have proof, and you have to have a viable metrics along the way to be able to prove to other people that your idea is something that people will engage with, and that you know how to deploy it over time.
Yeah, for sure. And that is very, I mean, it's something that changed the world, to be honest. Especially for small developers that work remotely, they can find jobs. They can do some, okay, I found these issues in this protocol, I can come and I can fix it and I get some money, and you get paid by the protocol to fix these issues, which helps everyone that uses this protocol. I mean, we have, the Wax Labs has granted fixes to upgrade the blockchain system, to fix small things. For the atomic assets, the new NFT standard, they granted their atomic hub platform, and they didn't grant a lot of money, but they granted them so they can actually work on this and continue to build and follow their dreams, and that's enabling.
This community, is it community voted?
Yes, currently the Wax team has the majority of the tokens, so they have the end decision. And you get money when you have delivered something, so you don't get money up front. You get money when you say, I'm gonna do this in this timeline, and at this timeline, have you delivered what you should deliver? Then you get the first cut or the full pot, depending on how your proposal is. But over time, this will be 100% controlled by the guilds and the token holders. So yeah, the token holders go and vote for them right now as well. Just that, if you're a small guy, you probably don't have a lot of million of tokens to pass this threshold to everything.
That's really neat, man. I like that. I like that a lot. And like you're saying too, that enables the guys to go and basically test their product. Are people into this? Is this something that the ecosystem wants, or am I building this just because it's something that I think that everybody wants? Have one of those progressive steps. Love it.
Yeah, and one thing, now we have talked a lot about blockchain, but I actually wanna talk a little bit more about the other stuff that you work. And I know that some of this you try to hide because you don't want to get stamped by that you're this fitness guy, but you are, and that is something that is positive, and I'm gonna drag you into it. But before we go into the fitness part, I will give you just a breather. The first thing I want to do is I want you to tell us about your first food memory from when you were whatever, how old you were, the first memory that comes to mind when you think about food, it can be positive or negative or anything.
The CNE in Toronto. We're going there with my grandfather, and I'm like like you say, I work out a lot because I like to eat. I think that was kind of like my primary driver as like a kid, and I like eat relatively well, of course, but I remember going there, and there were like these funnel cakes. They're like deep fried, kind of like it's like a deep fried pie that doesn't really have a pie filling with like whipped cream. Just remember like walking through there. That would be my first food memory. It would be with my Irish grandfather when I was just a kid at this big. It's like an exhibition kind of fair type thing that happens in Toronto, and that would be one of my fondest first memories of food.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Uh,
Yeah,
and okay, so to be able to do everything that you do, you go and you learn a lot of things. You build websites now. You was a diver, then you went to rescue people higher up, and then you went to work with oil, and then you went to the online coaching, and now you build websites, and you help build new projects. And to do this, I guess that it helps that you exercise and you put a lot of energy into expending energy or using
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I would definitely classify myself as a little bit of a workaholic at this stage. Like I was up till 4 last night and up at 10. Just a lot of projects, a lot of consulting stuff going on, and doing a lot of site builds and like some sales stuff and all that kind of thing. But I'm lucky because my girlfriend is actually an IFBB figure pro. Got her pro card last year, and
What is that
I've been
for
into
those that have no idea? I know what that is, but
it's like kind of a it's not a women's bodybuilder. She's a beautiful girl, very lucky, like kind of like fitness model type thing. Uh, Also like the sweetest girl you've ever met in your entire life, and we both have this passion for fitness. We met when we were very young, and yeah, it's basically like a professional designation as like as an athlete who goes on stages and does the competitions and stuff like that.
so
Not
so
this. Not,
so she works out, diets, and then go and present her physique in a special manner of poses and individual programs, which could be some dance or something to music if you go that far in the competition. Uh,
Yeah, it's the highest designation in the world. So she was into that. Me myself, I started off when I was really young. Like I remember, I was probably in grade. Oh man, I was growing up in Newfoundland, and this guy named Flector. I was like in grade. Would have been like grade 6 or grade 7. This guy named Flector. He was probably in like grade 36 because he was like he had a beard and stuff, and he just like never left school. He had been there for like a really long time and just kept repeating like the 10th grade. Um, I was just this kid, and he came up to me in the back of the bus. Actually, no. If we're gonna be totally intellectually honest, I think I beat him off, and I said something to him because he said something to me, and he like pulled me off the bus, and he beat the living crap out of me in a snowbank. And I'm pretty sure I actually deserved it, if we're being honest. And he threw me, and he was like something about fatty, and like I went home and I looked in the mirror, and I was like, oh man, like I never was anything that I ever considered before. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, "Oh, I'm chubby." That day, it was the middle of winter, and I ran uphill for like 5 kilometers, like falling, and I think I actually even like threw up. And I came back, and I just it was this negative thing that impacted me in one of the most beautiful ways possible because it really changed my life and the shape that my life took. Came back, and the next day I had the same thing and the same thing. Started running a lot. Started getting into working out at a very young age. Just a kid at the time. I had the weight set in the basement, and later on, eventually, like highly disciplined in martial arts. I played a lot of rugby for Newfoundland, which was one of the better teams in Canada, and got to travel the world. And just fitness kind of really became a way of life. So driving back to my first point, I think that if you are in one of these growth stages of your life and you're really spending a lot of time behind your computer, you're spending a lot of time like really kind of going after your future and trying to make an impact and learn as much as you can, that this is something I know that you share with me. You really have to take care of yourself physically, because mind and body are definitely connected. I have no doubt in my mind about that. The way that they work and the way that they complement each other is undeniable. So if you're going to push yourself mentally, and if you're going to push yourself to build the life that you want, to build the future that you want, you better be damn sure that you're on point with with your fitness as well, because it doesn't matter if you know everything. You have this wealth of knowledge and you can do all these cool things, and if you are rotting on the inside, then you're failing. So one thing that I really do, I haven't been as much lately, but love jujitsu. Was a lot of kind of like stand up kickboxing when I was younger. So still train, still do weights, and you really just don't do it because of the aggression, but I do it because I just love the exercise. I love the cardiovascular activity, and you and myself know very well. Talked about it multiple times that you really got to take care of your body, to take care of your brain. To take care of your brain, you've got to take care of your body. They're tied together, and exercise is life. And when you are eating properly and you are hydrating yourself and you're exercising properly, you just function at a much higher level, intellectually as well.
Yeah, you are, and exercise is a great way to build discipline, and to show gratitude towards yourself, because when you go into a hard exercise, that is when you show yourself who your true self really is. Do you give
Yeah.
up? Do you complain? This is the person you are when life is tough. And it's a great way to train this. And as I worked as a personal trainer, I had a lot of regular people coming. That was those that I worked most with. I still do some online coaching, but not a lot. I don't have the time for it. And when they come, these people, just over a few months, you can notice how they are different people from just doing this exercise a little bit tougher and tougher and tougher. Suddenly other parts of their life is better. They have a better relationship with their kids or their husband or their wife, depending on who it is. I had this company that I worked with. They were 10 people, and we had one exercise every Friday. So before lunch they came every Friday, and the first time one of the dudes could only do one half push-up. I mean, not even a full push-up. And after a year, this guy is running. He lost 20 kilos. He's doing a lot of, I mean, probably like 30-40 push-ups, the same dude. And this is just from, we started with one exercise, and he was dragging his leg, and the whole team was, no, not the whole team. We had 3 people out of this 10 that were performing awesome, and then we had a few that really enjoyed it, and we had some that wasn't really there, but they came and they enjoyed it, and that built the entire community of this organization.
I love that, man, and that's something that I totally subscribe to. But for like, I'm a big believer in kind of the law of attraction and the thoughts that you perpetrate up here. And I'm not trying to get too like squirrely. I think maybe it works through auto suggestion. I'm not saying I know how it works, but I think the thoughts that you hold in your head ultimately define your reality. And I think that's maybe because you define your state of mind. And when you feel good about yourself, like when you're working out, anybody who works out is not better than anybody who doesn't work out. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But what I'm trying to say, that when you work out, it gives you a little bit of confidence. You start to feel good about yourself. You start to have more energy, and when you can take that energy and you can harness it, if you work out, you tend to be able to feel better about yourself. If you feel better about yourself, you act better, because it starts to bring down all our insecurities in life. Are really kind of what create the ugliest part of us.
Yeah.
And if you can start to eliminate some of those insecurities by just feeling good about yourself and feeling content within yourself, who you've become on a physical level as well as a spiritual level, it really ends up manifesting outside. So I think, like, for that reason, fitness is one of those key ingredients inside of life that really ties everything together and allows you to grow.
Yeah, and as you say, none of us are saying that you become a great person by exercising, because you can still do a lot of crap on the side. But someone that's trying to be a good person and exercise will probably feel better and perform better. And I mean, I've seen it over and over again. I've had people that are in their 50s, and after a while they're feeling amazed. They don't understand it, how they could actually treat themselves like they did before. And they find their excuses one after one. And when I did personal training, I did sports psychology in the university. So I also applied some psychology when I work with them to build this confidence and to build them up. And it's awesome. It's a great tool set.
You also mentioned something too, which was really interesting. It's about pushing your own boundaries. I think, like, a lot of our limitations within ourselves, and I've I've proven this to myself over the last few years with just some of the things that I've kind of been able to learn and immerse myself in. Like, we are self-limiting creatures, and when you can learn to really get comfortable with being uncomfortable on a physical level, you can do that in a lot of other levels too. And that will, that discipline and that drive and that learning to push past comfort levels and push, it really translates into life, because people like organization, they like hierarchies, and they want to say that you are this or you are that. And of course, the perception of others, the collective perception of others, becomes the perception of us. If you can start to realize that your perception of yourself is more important than the perception of others, and I'm not just saying this is on a hokey level, I mean like on a very basic logic level, if you can start to block out their perception, realize that you are capable of a lot more than you think you are on a physical level, as well as on an intellectual level, a growth level, then it really gives you this opportunity to push away any influence from any outside people and go out and really start expanding your horizons, because the number one limiting factor of people in their life is themselves, and a lot of lessons that you'll learn through fitness will attest to that, and it'll start to kind of hone that growth mechanism from within yourself. Realize that you are more than you have been labeled, you are more than you've been boxed in, and you're capable of a lot more than you think you are.
Yeah, and one thing that you just mentioned quickly is that other people, if you think they see something negative about you, that is you reflecting your own insecurities.
True.
It's not them, because if someone says something about you that you feel upset about, that you feel is something negative, that is because deep inside you feel that this is true. You mirror this emotion. If you feel that this is untrue, you don't really care if they say something bad to you.
Yeah.
And this is something that exercise really helps. And I'm not saying that it's magic, but by pushing these boundaries and building confidence, each time you do something and you notice that you do something more, you can lift a little bit more, you can run further, or you can do a yoga pose longer, or you achieve something, success. You actually see that you can do something, you can perform, you can improve on some aspect of your life, and this will start to build your confidence up. So when you do something that you're insecure about, or something that is new to you, you will have this, okay, I can actually do things that I couldn't do before, so perhaps I can actually do this in this new area as well. And then we can start to push.
I think socially we're conditioned to care what other people think, though. Do you know what I mean? I think that that's something like naturally inherent within the human condition, that we are socially conditioned to care about what other people think. But when you can start to build that strength, breaking through some of those barriers inside of you, then you'll start to realize that that nothing else matters, kind of aside from your immediate friends, your immediate circle. And that if you can break levels on the physical level, you can break levels on the mental level. It's incredible what you can learn from YouTube these days, and just surrounding yourself by some really bright people. And have that energy within yourself, that you feel good about yourself. You tend to exude that when you speak to other people. When you start to speak to other people, they like being around you because they feel like you're a little bit more stabilized. They like your energy. They like. I sound like it's funny when I think about it. I sound kind of silly, but it's very true. I do believe in the way that you feel about yourself is the way that you present yourself to others.
Yeah, but it's true that that's social psychology. I mean, if you start to act a certain way, you will start to attract people that appreciate this.
Absolutely.
So the best thing to achieve a change is just to start to act differently. And that is the only way to achieve a change. You have to do something different to achieve something different. There's no other solution to do that. And the best way to grow is actually just to be vulnerable to something, because that's when you put yourself into something that you are not strong enough in currently. That could be a new job or new situation. I know that there's a lot of people that have this insecurity and they want to give up. But if they just continue, this is when they feel down, they feel low. We have this beautiful, Brené Brown has a great book called The Power of Vulnerability, which is one of the most life-changing book I ever heard. That when I feel that something is difficult and I feel vulnerable, I know that I'm doing something correct. I know that this is something that I'm growing in right now, and that could be moving, it could be a new job, it could be surround myself with new people, and this is where I have to be. But I can't be in this area in all areas of my life at the same time, because then I will be broken down. I need to do it in steps. Yeah.
Absolutely. Push yourself, find smart people, and things that you never thought you could achieve, and you probably surprise yourself here and there.
And does Matt have any habits daily that you do or perform to increase your health or mindset or?
Daily, like of course, I spend my daily time at the gym, and in terms of like productivity habits or just like life hacks, like
Uh,
I'm like it's funny. I do have a couple of habits that I do whenever I'm feeling unmotivated, and it was this kind of adaptation from this Brian Tracy thing where you wake up. I'll wake up. I'll do this IMs first thing in the morning. Wake up in the morning, and I'll do it for 21 days straight. And then when I need more motivation, I'll go back and I'll do the same thing where I wake up and I talk about myself in future tense. You know, I am living with such and such. You really define what you want in the future, and you set immediate dates, and you write 10 statements up and down. You set those up, and then afterwards, I write down 3 immediate actions that I need to accomplish right there and then before I begin my day, and another 7 actions I need to accomplish during the day. I do a lot of journaling and writing and goal setting, and I don't know, aside from that, just the fitness stuff is really, really important to me, and starting to learn to take a little bit more time. Spend a lot of time in front of the computer, but it's starting to take little breaks, micro breaks, where I just go out and spend time with my girlfriend and just hang out and make sure that I take, even if it's only 15 or 20 minutes just to refresh my brain. Go and spend time with your family. Go out and spend a minute just staring off. Costa Rica here is beautiful. We have a really nice view. Just go out and realize that the world is more around you than your kind of immediate peripheral. I do a lot of that lately, just little checks. What about you, Anders? I'm curious. What are the
Yeah,
habits?
and I know that you probably do more habits than you can know that you can say right now because you have done this for so long and you have stayed lean for a long time. And if you stay lean for a long time, you have a lot of habits that work for you because you're not magical. You need to look after your calories and everything like everyone else. You're
Of
amazing,
course.
but you need to care about that as well. And I actually do a lot of them because for if I go back 2 years, I started to be depressed, and I've been depressed for over 2 years. At this time, I also had a kid, which didn't make it easier. It actually made it harder because I had to adapt while I was feeling low. But I actually started to break free from that in December, and then for real starting from March. And what I started to do is I started to add daily habits every day to get some structure. And right now I go up at 4:30 every day. And this is not because I want to be more productive. I go up because I want to be I want to show gratitude towards the day. I want to go up, and I feel like, oh, I don't want to go up. That's a lot of the day, especially when I don't sleep a lot, like right now. But I go up and I feel, okay, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna be grateful that I'm alive and that I have this opportunity to fulfill this day. So that's the first step. So instead of going up for some outer motivation, I do it from the inside, and I want to do something. And I start by going into the shower and get ready, and I get dressed and I put on a shirt. I work from home, but I do it anyway because I want to represent myself. I shave, I fix my hair, even though I only go upstairs. I sleep downstairs, I go up and I get dressed for success, really. And this is, it's not that I want to show other people because I sit at home. I do this because I want to show myself that I can perform and I can actually take care of myself. I can take this serious. And then I go and then I read. The first thing I do, and I don't read a book. I don't read 200 pages. I read a few pages of some kind of philosophy. And right now I read Stoic words, and so and this helps me to start my mindset and start to change it from the depression mindset, because the only thing you need to do to get rid of depression is start to do with people that are not depressed, what they are doing. That's the only thing you need to do, really. You just need to change, but it's impossible to do while you're depressed. So
Yeah.
I read, and then I journal, and I write something. Perhaps it was something that I got from this text that I read, or some thought I had for the last few days, or I remind myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I remind myself I go up early to show that I'm grateful. Because if I continue to practice, then I will succeed. If I just do something, I forget why I do it, I'm not gonna fall through. I'm gonna give up.
Yeah. I love that, Anders, and it's really cool that you're so open about some of your struggles because there are a lot of people who suffer with depression, and I think, like, of course, myself included, we've talked. Like, you go through ups and downs. I think I'm you know, but I grew up with it in the family, and mental health is like, really, really serious issues. So it's cool that you're so open and transparent about that. And I think a lot of what you're saying is absolutely bang on. It's a crazy world right now. Like, when you really sit back and you watch the headlines and everything else, like, the world is or at least sold to us as a crazy world. So I think it's really important to take some time, separate yourself, and develop a lot of these techniques that are going to allow you to realize. I do this thing sometimes, man. I stare up at night. We have these like beautiful sunsets here, and then we have these like incredible. Just go out and I stare up into the sky. Just look at the sky, and I'll think about like some alien on some space planet, like walking around with his like alien stroller. Like, maybe he like just got his leg chopped off because this other alien like didn't like him, and that's cool on their planet. And you could have real problems like that guy, but it's just the world is so vast and the universe is so vast. We're so like inner focused on these like crazy little small problems that really aren't problems. So it's also like to go out and just stare at the vastness of space some nights is like a really good exercise, and trying to ground yourself and realize that nothing that you're worried about, like at the end of the day, like, well, very little is really like relevant or anything that should stress you out.
Yeah, the only thing that matters, it is this moment, because the future doesn't exist and the past is just your memory. So everything you need to do is just to be here, and that is very hard because it's so easy to be in the future, especially in the crypto space. Everyone talks about gains. They want this to happen, they want to see that, they want to see everything, and then they see the past and they forget where they are and where they have been. And it's good to have some direction to go, but you don't have to an exact place. You just, well, if you know which direction you're going, if you just stay in the present, you will get somewhere, and might not be there, it might be somewhere else, but you will get forward.
Absolutely, man. It's pretty rare chance that we ever actually even make it to this planet. So
Yeah.
enjoy it while you can. But I personally love working. Like, I definitely work a lot. I'm a workaholic. But first time in my life, I'm doing like a lot of stuff independently, and I'm excited. It's a cool, really cool space, really cool people.
Yeah,
it's an exciting time to be.
And we have actually been here. The time just flew by, but where are you heading if we take this last outlook forward? You said that you are building your own product. You say that there is something launching on Wax. What is Matt doing in 6 months time forward? Is it something that you can paint a picture? You don't have to share all the details, but yeah, who's Matt in 6 months from now?
6 months, Matt is doing everything. That's what I'm doing right now. Like, and I'm not even like in a jerk way. I love being busy. I love this space. I'm consulting on probably 2 different projects in terms of operations. I'm doing a couple of capital raises. I'm doing business development with some of the guys with one of these new chains. Like, I am writing sales emails. I'm doing website consulting. Like, I'm happiest when I am busy. And in the perfect world, I think like in 2 years, I'd love to create a co-working space. Just in light of all this, I call it my sovereign pirate boat. That's where this is all going to lead. Where I'll have like a catamaran where I can have people out, and we can just literally, I love the ocean. I love sailing. I grew up sailing. Literally just travel the ocean and work on these kind of innovative products that come out. It would just be this boat where it would be a sizable boat. Have people out. That's my future. My future is to have the ability, the pleasure, and the good fortune to be able to continue to work with some of the intelligent people that I'm working with, have the opportunities that seem to keep popping up to me, and continue to be a part of what's going on here in this space from very humble beginnings. That's my future. I'd love to have a co-working space that floats around, and we're working in the British Virgin Islands one day, and we're doing like a 2-month build out on a project. I just love blockchain. I love I love innovation. Like, I like organizing, planning, building. I just want to continue to build cool products that will hopefully impact the world, and that's where I want to be in a couple of years.
That sounds amazing. And from how you're working, it looks like you're moving to that direction.
Well, it's big ambitions. Like that's one thing too. Humility is key, man. You know what I mean? And still got a lot of work to do. But I'm blessed to have some really cool people in my life and some really neat opportunity, yourself included. So
Yeah,
I
but
appreciate you. I appreciate all you do.
when you have this path, you know that this boat is where you want to go. If you stay in the moment, then you go towards it or somewhere else in the future. You never know. So that's everything. So I'm very grateful that you came here and talked to you, and we got to learn a little bit about Humatis, your past and some regulations, and then we go into the fitness space, and we know that you're coming with some products on wax. Or helping people with products for wax, and one of the wax labs yourself. So very exciting to hear, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Appreciate all your work you do in the community. Keep killing these videos, man. Amazing content, and you're helping to build the ecosystem. You're helping to teach people. And Anders, you're just a hell of a guy, man. Pleasure. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, man.